Oh,
we're at
God.
29% on the battery, so I got to make sure we get this. Plus, I think I have the flu, so my apologies. I can't do it. So, all right, Dave, I don't know how much we're gonna keep at Dave's intro because I was delirious when I was listening to him. So one of the big issues is when you have a small, I'm starting to call this operation a micro mill. Okay, I don't even know if we're a sawmill because a lot of sawmills that have circle head rigs, they push out like 15 to 25,000 board feet a day. We're not even remotely close to that. All right. So we have to focus on higher value lumber. That means almost exclusively across the board, grade lumber, weirdly sized, oversized beams that other sawmills just can't handle, and timber packages that a lot of guys don't want to cut because unless you're specifically kind of set up to deal with just cutting posts and beams, a lot of sawmills, the way their green chains and resaws are set up, they don't want to handle larger beams, especially once you start to climb up into odd sized beams like 10 by 12s and 8 by 16s that we cut for load supporting beams and stuff like that. So when we focus on grade lumber and slabs, one of the problems we get is with homeowners, they come to the yard and after the slabs have been air dried for a year or two, everything across the board looks gray. So when they come to look at the slab, you can literally talk to someone face to face for 30 minutes trying to describe a color. It's very difficult to describe colors, especially the nuances of color. So what we realized was the number one question we get with homeowners who are buying slabs are, what's the color of the natural species? What's this gonna look like if I poly it? What's this gonna look like if I put some sort of oil finish on it? Not a stain, just a clear oil or relatively clear oil. So you can't describe that to people. It's impossible. I've spent days trying to describe the nuances of like a pinkish hue in a birch that we get up here. In Vermont, a lot of the birch has like a pink undertone to it. You can't relate that to someone. So we got kind of frustrated after a while, and then finally we just said, look, we need to take a full weekend, and Dave and I built these display cabinets. So I don't know if we've ever opened these to you guys, so we just decided to show you what we have here. So Dave and I built the cabinets. They're complete. We cut samples from air-dried lumber, except for beech, and I'll show you what happened to the beech because we put the beech in here green. And we finished them so the clients can just walk up to the cabinet. We can blow all the sawdust out of the cabinet before they come, and then they can just take a look and see kind of what they're about to buy, so to speak. So here. Obviously, it's a double cabinet. Everything that we have on there is hung on a French cleat rail system. So the clients can physically take off the wood pieces. Dave's gonna go over there and show you. That way, you know, it's not mounted hard to the cabinet. It's a little bit nice to just grab it. They all have French cleats that hang on a cleat rail over there, so we can just take them out. And then if we have to rearrange them or whatever, we can. Let me just go through each of the species that we have. And so what we did is on each board has an oil finish on the top, a water-based poly in the center, and it's excuse me, it's raw sanded on the bottom. We decided when we were going to do this that we were trying to figure out a way to have a sample board or a matrix of board slices that would have different finishes on them, and we were thinking of cutting each species into 5 or 6 boards and then basically having individual boards for each species and then having a matrix of like 60 boards on the wall. Well, there's 2 or 3 problems with that. One, we don't have enough covered space here to do that. We will eventually when we put up a new building, but for right now we had to economize with space. So the solution to doing that is to cut down the number of finishes and also keep the boards integral and not cut them apart. So each individual species board has the top third is an oil finish, the middle is a water-based poly, and the bottom is a raw sand. And the reason we left the raw sanded instead of including a third finish is a lot of clients really want to know what the bare wood looks like, even though 99.9% of all wood products in a home will have some sort of a finish on it, whether it's a film finish like poly or a penetrating finish like an oil. They want to just know basically the actual product they're buying, because if they ever want to refinish it, they want to know what the natural color is so that they can build forward and upward off of that. So if they ever strip back a product that they've finished that they don't like, then they know what the raw product looks like. So that's important to have. So Dave is going to hold the camera and we're just going to do a walkthrough, and I'm probably going to have to check the sides of the species because I always forget. We have to label them, but I never have time to do it. Alright, so I'm going to show you what happens when you try to finish a green piece of lumber. You should never ever do this, okay? Because when lumber air dries, that's a whole different video, and there are a lot of guys who do amazing air and kiln drying work out there on YouTube who have done videos on the nuances of it. But one of the things you can't really do is when you take a piece of lumber that has a high moisture content, that's relatively what we call green, you can't just seal one side of it, because then it will preferentially lose moisture out of one side and not lose moisture out of the film finish side, and it'll warp extremely badly. And that's a misconception that homeowners have. They think that to save time and money, we always get homeowners every season that contact us and they say, how important is it really to get the wood down to say 6 or 8% moisture content? It's higher in New England. Equilibrium moisture content in New England, a lot of times inside your home for a given piece of wood, is like anywhere between 11.5% to 13% based on your home heating system and where you live in which state, okay? If you're much higher than that and you just throw a film finish onto a piece of wood that still has 40% moisture content, it's going to be horrendous. The wood is just going to blow apart and curl and do all sorts of nonsense to it. Which is exactly what happened to our beech, because we don't cut beech up here, but we happen to have beech boards. So we thought, it doesn't matter, it's just a display cabinet, it'll let people know what the color of the beech is, and which is pointless on two reasons, because we don't really cut beech, so that's pointless. And the second is the rest of the boards are absolutely dead flat, and I don't know if you can see that, how badly that's curved, that's cupped in the thing, because the GoPro distorts it, but it's got a solid 25-degree cup on it, over 3.5 feet. So you don't want to finish green wood, okay? So let me just go through each species. We have the beech, obviously, which I said we hardly cut, which just doesn't seem to grow much up here, at least in our part of Vermont. We hardly ever see it. When I was cutting trees down in New Jersey, there was a lot of beech in New Jersey. I mean, not a ton, but we would regularly cut down beech trees, and big ones too. But it just doesn't seem to happen up here in Vermont. We have cedar, same thing. A lot of people contact us for two woods that we almost never carry. One is cedar, because they're finishing off saunas and doing specialty work up here in their vacation homes, like bathrooms that they want cedar accents to. We almost get no access to it, which is crazy, because in other parts of the United States, cedar, like in Virginia, North Carolina, it grows like weeds. It's basically like walnut down south. It's almost like a nuisance tree that people cut down and just throw in the garbage. Up here, it's pretty much unobtainium. You just can't get cedar up here, okay? So people ask for cedar, we just say, we'd love to have it too. By the way, cedar is horrendously nasty to cut. It's, when I was doing tree service work, we used to dread doing cedar jobs because it's not good for your health either. It's what's the word I'm looking for? It's a
toxic.
No, not toxic. It's a cedar is a mild sensitizer, which means that when you're around a lot of cedar dust, it can sensitize you to sawdust and dust in general. So you have to be very careful when you're cutting a lot of cedar, okay? And I'm sure guys out there have cut a million board feet of cedar and like, this guy has no clue what he's talking about. It's not good. It's one of the woods that has chemicals in it that are just not good long-term for you to be breathing and be around. The other thing is, the dust from cedar, the way the cedar grain breaks, it's frangible. So it's not like pine dust where you wipe pine dust off your face and it's like a wet flour. Cedar is a million needles, basically. If you get cedar dust all over your face and you try to wipe it out, it's basically like stabbing yourself 50,000 times, all right? It's nasty, all right? So I'm kind of glad we don't cut much of it.
So, the opposite of what he just said. The opposite of what he just said. Clap your hands, everybody. Everybody, clap your hands. Wait, is that on?
Yes.
Okay.